Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode in Let's Mod Artificial Artificing. In the last episode we did a bunch of sort of automation of things that I really don't want to have to do, and I've continued in that line. So currently all we have to do to add a new block is write this line of code here, and this line of code here. And that's all done for us, I think. Or yeah, those two lines. Pretty sure. And the rest of it's handled by my automated methods. And you can see all the commented out things. That's stuff I never have to deal with again. So that's pretty exciting right there. And I've extended this to items as well. So now if we want to make a new item, all we have to do is write one line of code. And it's done for us. That's everything. If we want to, or if you want to see the code for that, this is the item simple thing. It's pretty similar to what we did in the item in the block simple class. So there isn't a whole lot more to understand there. But yeah, pretty much the same. And over in client proxy, I no longer have to write anything in here either, because I'm just iterating through the items in the startup common class and giving them their models, because I also managed to go over into, where is it? Startup client. Should have had this ready. Startup client here. I've with a pretty simple tweak here, very simple actually. I've made this method universally functional, so I don't have to have a startup client class in every block class, every item class. That's all over with. It's automated now. Universal method right there. So that's great. And over in apprentice recipes. Now this is something I haven't actually shown you because I haven't done anything with it yet. But in between these two episodes, I have done something with it. So now, by the way, this is the class that handles the table recipes, where you right-click the table and stuff happens, consumes your ingredients, spits out the result. So what this does is it grabs the positions of the blocks around the table, and it will check them against our recipes and create the product that it ought to produce if the recipe is correct. And I can explain the logic in just a moment, but that's pretty much all it does. So it iterates through the recipes and checks each recipe to the set of blocks that you have, and it'll go right here if the inputted blocks, that's craft blocks, contains the recipe, which is the recipe, then it'll or if craft blocks does not contain the recipe, then it just continues on to the next iteration, so it won't go through all this extra checking. But if it does contain the blocks, then we have to count the number of ingredient blocks in each in the recipe and the inputted blocks, and make sure that the counts compare to each other and are the same. So this is the method that does that pretty much. Or sorry, this is the method that does that. It goes through and it increments these values up here depending on whether it ought to be incremented or not, and you get a count of how many of each block is in the array list, and then it does the same for the recipe, and if they match, then or actually no, it doesn't do that. That was my first that was this code here, matching the same process of the recipe to that. But now what I do is just, if the total is 4, then it's a match. And I didn't realize that was true at first, but it is true. So now we just have to see if the total is 4, and that's much easier. So yeah, you can see this code here went through several iterations. Several generations of code lived and died to produce that result. But I'm pretty sure it's I'm pretty sure that's a good solution to our problem here. And in order to create a new recipe now, all we have to do is add to our main list of recipes to iterate through, and we add a new recipe list, which is one of these objects that I created. And these objects basically just have a list of the 4 blocks they need, a product, and in some cases, well, I guess in all cases, but in some cases you set use product in 4x4 reversed true, and that's because I want to be able to reverse some of the recipes to their component blocks. And I've actually done that. I've actually implemented that as well. A lot of things going on here. So down in the registering of recipes place, we iterate through the apprentice recipes list, which is in here. That's being added to in this column here. And if the if used product in 4x4 reverse is true, then it will create a new recipe it'll create a new crafting recipe to reverse the process using the items in that recipe list. And I've actually automated the creation of most of those recipe lists as well. So up here in this place, I think, maybe, or is it the item blocks, or I can't remember if it's the blocks that I added this to or the items. I think it's the items, right? So yeah, I added a whole slew of new items as well. And right, in the item simple class, if we go down here, we have our crystal preset, and the crystal preset actually creates a recipe for the shards, because these are little crystal shards that you craft from the crystal blocks. So we've automated all the recipes with these methods, as well as the registering models, registry of the things, names, materials, parameters, and their models as well. So that's pretty great. That's a lot of work I don't have to do anymore. So I'm very, very pleased with that. And we can get rid of all this commented out code and never think about it again, which is even better. However, that's not what we're going to be doing this episode. A very long introduction, or a very long recap, I suppose, but it's not what we're going to be doing. In this episode, what I want to be doing is trying to get some of the things that we've made to be craftable. And in order to actually create this tree of progression through our mod, we need to have crafting stations and crafting basically ways of getting stuff, and they need to be kind of difficult and rely on things before them, and we need to figure all that out. And one of the things I want to do is create a block that will take in liquid crystal slurries, sort of, and crystallize the slurries into these shards that I was talking about earlier. Actually, I should show you the shards in the game actually, but I want to have this crystallizing machine that will take the slurries and crystallize them into crystals, and then you get the crystals out, and you can use them to make these functional crystals. The things, the machines, basically, the pipes that transport energy, or the blocks that complete tasks, things like that. And in order to make this crystallization thing, we need those liquid slurries, and I want to actually make fluids for them. So I've been reading up on how you actually create fluids. Oh yeah, you may notice some new blocks and lots of new items and new models as well. I was working hard on the models. Let's see, full screen on so you can see them better because they're very glorious. So this is the wand, and tick tick, because I haven't set up a proper. There's no recipe for error. But yeah, if we right click there, we get our output there, and that's 16 of the blue crystal shards, and that recipe was one of the ones that was procedurally generated. Same with this recipe. That's the use product in 4x4 reverse. So when we're creating this recipe list for the 4 blocks of blue crystal, and in fact for every set of 4 blocks of blue crystal, because I've procedurally generated one for every set of or every color. we automatically procedurally generate that that recipe there you just saw, and with the use in 4x4 reverse, it procedurally generates this recipe, which is actually, I don't think it's shapeless, but it's you can put it in any corner, and you can make the remake the crystals with that. And I have checked, it's not a sort of craft them, uncraft them, get more. It creates equal proportions, so that's all good. I've also got these cute little jars of Peruvian Instant Darkness powder. And I've also created one for the Dust of the Devourer, which is that one, if you remember. I actually think the Dust of the Devourer jar looks significantly better than the Peruvian Instant Darkness powder jar, simply because the glass around it is not the base texture glass. So I'm going to change that texture maybe to white glass instead of streaky clear glass, because I think that'll look a lot better. I've also created this lattice tweaker model, which I think looks pretty good. I think over in the inventory it's a little bit large for the panel there, and same goes for the wand. I'm going to shrink the scale down a little there. But overall, we've got a lot of nice things now, and I'm very pleased with the progression that we've been having. However, I want to. Oh yeah, I need to add lang entries for these. However, I want to work on the crystallization of these in that slurry crystallizer, and in order to do that, I need to make those fluids. So I'm going to start work on that a little bit and show you some of the basics. So I've created another base class for this time for fluids, and you can see it here. It's actually a lot simpler than I was expecting. You basically just extend fluid, and there are a bunch of properties that you can set and get with the setter and getter methods. And I've already started to simplify my life a little by, instead of having to input a resource location for the still file, or for the still resources and the flowing resources, now I automatically generate those resource locations from the name that you give it. So that's already helpful. And what I need to do now, though, because currently all I'm doing is instantiating that class and registering the fluid, like this, and calling some setter getter method, or calling some setter methods. All I'm doing with that, though, is creating a fluid that exists as a I guess as a thing that could be put into tanks or something, but it can't actually be used. Like, it can't be put onto the ground or put into a bucket, I don't think. So I need to do some more things before I can get that working. So I need to keep reading. I did also just realize I could probably automate the lang file, which would be pretty nice. If I just delete the lang file and fill it with auto-generated tile.unlocalized name.names and things like that, and I could pretty easily automate the lang file, I think. So I might actually try that soon. But first I need to work on the fluids. I can't get too distracted here. Are you ready for the most beautiful fluid you've ever seen? It's a work of art, really. Yeah. So apparently there are a couple problems to be sorted out. I've got error logs in the console, so I'm pretty sure it's just not finding the model. So I'll look around and see what's going on there. I have had other problems though as well. Nothing too bad, but just I've had to rearrange my registry system a little bit. Although I think actually I can probably unrearrange it, because the problem was I was trying to register this thing to a null name in the registry, and it didn't have a registry name. And so in the constructor for this thing, I have set registry name. So that should definitely help a little bit there. And indeed, it didn't crash when I was trying to launch. I think I may be losing it. Not actually as a result of the fluid, not as a direct result of the fluid. I've sort of I've sort of given up on the fluid because I realize I don't actually care. We don't need a fluid for this. All we need is basically an item that'll represent the slurry that we're putting into this crystallizer. So I don't actually need to make a fluid that's placeable and flowy and all that stuff on the. I don't actually need anything like that. So I've gone for the item route, and I have been doing some more coding, some more labor saving auto generation things. So I'll walk you through what hopefully is going to happen first, and then I'll show you what's making that hopefully happening. So ideally, I can now get rid of these things, like so, and they ought to be automatically generated from just the blocks here. So that's also very nice. And those items that are automatically generated from the blocks should in turn automatically generate their slurry items. And I think I've got that all working, and then that all should be automatically registered. So we will see how this goes. Over in block simple, then this is how I'm doing this stuff. We in the crystal subcategory, we give this block simple a sub item. I've created these two fields, Boolean has sub item and the sub item, and we in the crystal subcategory, or sorry, in the crystal preset, we set the has sub item to true, and we set the sub item to a new item simple of type of preset crystal with the other parameters there. And over in item simple, which I have up on my other monitor, now I don't. Over in item simple, the preset crystal sets the super item to the block it was given, or to the block that generated it, and it sets its sub item to a new item simple slurry, and the slurry thing over here when it's generated also sets some parameters, and it generates a new JSON for itself, as does the crystal, of course, and the block. And that should be generating the nice chain of items, but we still have to register those, and since they're not actually visible anymore, we can't get at them easily. So what I've done with that hierarchy of super and sub items is we can now access the sub items and register them through the blocks that they belong to and through the items that they belong to. So you can see here, if it's an instance of block, it just registers the block, and then if it's an instance of block simple and the block simple has a sub item, it will register that sub item. And if that sub item is an instance of item simple and that item simple has a sub item, it'll register that sub item. So I think this is all working. It's oh, what did I do? I think I've crystal red. Where is this? Line 433 in startup common. Okay, line 433. Item crystal red, huh? So this is what we're going to have to do now. With the coolness and easiness of that system, it does come at some small cost. And what that cost is we have to reference these items through their super items. And as a demonstration here, I will say block crystal red dot sub item, and that is the crystal red. So that should work. And if we save that, yeah, I think that's all good. Okay, so that's how we're going to be referencing these things in the future. And if I run this program now, if I run Minecraft, it should go and generate an awful lot of JSONs. So I'm going to give that a shot. We've got a nice wall of text now. So I've run it once, and it seems to be working properly. you can see up here it's registering the blocks, and you can see over on the right some various names: block generator 2, block small battery, things like that. When it gets down to about here, you can see it reaches the first crystal, and now it says, after registering block simple subitem, and to the ID artificial artificing item crystal blue. So that seems to be working. And then after that, it says registering item simple subitem and item slurry crystal blue. So that's also working nicely. And it goes through all of those like that, and then continues on with its happy life with the item blocks. So I'm pretty sure that's all working fine. And I'm going to drag the wall of text over to the right now, so you don't have to look at it. So over in resources, we should have a whole lot of extra models here, and they should be in models item particularly. This is Minecraft by example. Not exactly the one we're interested in there. Okay, so we do have a lot of things here already, but an easier way to tell would be to reload, refreshing. Okay, and you actually this bit here elongated, so that seems good. In the meantime, though, let's press rename. Oh, it actually might have. Yeah, nice. So it actually found all of them. That's new for Eclipse. Normally I have to rename the top file, and it realizes it's out of sync with the file system and then starts showing me things. But no, it's actually found them all. So we have all the items, slurry, crystal, whatevers, and if we open them with a text editor here, yeah, look at that. Block crystal. Oh, not quite here. Block crystal, crystal light blue. So it's got the names wrong a little bit, but I can fix that fairly easily, just with a tweak to the JSON generating script. But it has generated all the JSONs, so that's pretty good too. And yeah, so it needs an update for the script here. I've done something wrong there, but I think everything's in order. So I'm going to give it that update, and then we'll see what's what. Aha! So they did work. They went into the game. They had the recipes working. They worked in all the things. The only problem is that they didn't render properly, and I have fixed the JSON problem by tweaking a couple things in the generating strings section. And the problem now is that I've totally forgotten that I need to update their existence to the client proxy so that they can have their modeler registered. Now, if I could find my client proxy, that would be fabulous. Okay, so yeah, client proxy currently only it doesn't search through the sub items in the same way as the registry system does. So I need to update this for statement in the same way as I changed this one down here, so that it'll check if it's an instance of block simple and has a sub item, if it's an instance of item simple and has a sub item, etc. So I'll get that going and be right back. Haha, yes. All of them, they're all there. Excellent. Well then, that's this block of text we don't have to deal with again either. And what I want to do now is not more code optimization, because we've done an awful lot of code optimization. I want to actually add the crystallization vat that will get us these crystals, the item crystals, as well as use the slurries that we were just talking about earlier. Ooh, pretty. More on that next episode. However, in this episode, back to the present, I've got this crystallization vat ready, and before I go on, I should note I just got my second retainer, so I've got one on the top, one on the bottom, and the bottom one is actually marring my beautiful silky smooth voice. So if you notice something odd going on there, that's probably why. I'm also developing a cold, so I should sound extra weird. However, back to the present, like I said. So we've got this crystallization vat. I have the bottom retainer is pretty nasty for talking. Wow, it gathers saliva very quickly. Sorry. Anyway, this bat, I should talk with few words. Um, you can put some things in by right-clicking, and it goes up to 2. You can see it doesn't drop further than 14 there. And if I shift right-click, I can take them out again. That's saved to the NBT data, so I can leave the world and come back, and the items are saved. So that's all good. And not all items go in. Like this item, which actually should go in, doesn't, because I haven't actually added the tag into this item, the value into this item that will allow it to be in, allow it to go into this vat. So that's a thing. And I have it extending cauldron, so you can put water in it. Oh, like I said, water goes in as easily as air. What's going on there? Oh, that didn't work. Oi, get me out. Okay. I thought that worked. It's been a while since I did anything. Like I said over there, I've already recorded next episode. I'm doing things out of order a little. Let's see. Okay. I think what's going on is that if I'm returning the action result before it has a chance to put the water in. So I need to change that. But it does extend cauldron, so once I change that, you should be able to put water in it, check its value with a comparator, stuff like that. And its hitbox, if I can get in, is a cauldron's hitbox, etc. So yeah, pretty cool. I just need to add some recipe sort of capabilities to it now. Currently in the block crystallization bat .java class we have, most of the work is handled here to take items in and out. And what I could do is go into the tile entity and have it extend or implement a container, I think, or something like that. Basically use the container capability of Forge. But I don't actually want it to do that. I want it to be harder to automate than just pump items in, pump items out. So what I'm going to do instead is basically recreate most of the container interface and do things basically the way I want them to be done. So in here, like I said, it handles most of the stuff that takes items in and out. Except it shouldn't use unlocalized name for item identification, which it currently does, and I need to change that to registry name. So if you see that and start throwing up over your keyboard, then before you start doing that, I have thought of it, and I'm going to change it at some point. Just maybe not now. However, while we're on the subject of things I've done gravely wrong, remember this is not a tutorial series. Basically, all this static initialization, apparently that is extremely discouraged by the modding community. I'm not exactly sure why, but this one might start you throwing up over your proper registry events, because apparently we're supposed to be registering this stuff in this kind of thing, not in the pre-init, although it seems to work properly, which is why I'm wondering why one shouldn't do it, but I'm sure there's a good reason, so I'll switch it over at some point. Anyway, back to the crystallization bat. I told you my retainer is getting in the way. This episode will double as speech therapy for me. The crystallization recipes exist at the moment, and they contain the component list, the list of components, which is sort of the 2 items they're going to be put together in order to make the thing. So there's going to be sort of the slurry and then the crystal seed, and the idea is that the slurry crystallizes over the crystal seed to produce the crystal. Stupid retainer. Anyway, then it gives you the product, and it has an energy required, so you'll feed it energy, and it'll process the items. and it's bad. It's getting in the way. It's getting in the way a lot. I might have to take it out. Anyway, potion effect. It'll emit a potion effect around it while it's doing its work. So that should be pretty good. And the main crystallization recipe is low. So the low part means it's the low quality recipes. For higher quality recipes, like maybe the ender crystals or whatever, then you'll have to use a separate, probably a multi-block crystallization vat. I need to figure out some other name to call them while I've got this retainer in, because apparently I can't say crystallization very easily. Anyway, we'll probably use a multi-block crystallization vat, and hopefully we'll figure out how to do that too. So yeah. So like I said in the one of the previous clips, I have gone into our static initialization happy startup common class and changed this to true in item simple item crystal seed. So the crystal seed should go into the crystallization vat now, and now we probably ought to work on actually getting the crystallization vat to crystallize. So that means it needs to, in the challenge here, ignore that stuff. I'll get to that in the next episode, but not really because it was just testing, debugging. Anyway, what was I saying? I get distracted very easily. So yeah, we need this to process crystallization, recipes, and for that we need to look at these. So I already showed you what this has. So it needs to take in the two components and check to see if the components currently in the vat match any of the recipes that we have. Why is there a comma there? And we need to check to see if it's done, and process the amount of time left, judging by the energy required, and we need to produce the effect around it, and we need to produce the product when it's done. So that shouldn't be too hard all in all. Apparently we've got a half-second clock rate here, which I might want to change to moderate. In fact, I will change it right here. Config varus dot general dot mod event rate. Nope, it's crystals dot crystallization. Oh, crystallization vat configs. What do I have in here? Hash code. Crystallization vat play sound, which currently does nothing. Excellent. That's a very useful subclass right there. Let's go into the general crystal configs then, and get the mod event rate. Event, no. Goodness, where did I put this thing? Okay, forget it. Imagine that's a variable. that should be, oh. Alright. Wonder how many of you noticed that before I did. Okay, so we have this thing going at the event right now, and I suppose the first thing we should do is check the energy stored within it, and check to see if it has a recipe to progress towards, and if it does, then maybe increment some kind of progress integer that we store to NBT data for when the player unloads the chunks and things, and then after that, I guess we can produce an effect for the next couple of seconds, or the next 20 ticks times mod event rate or something. Actually, no, mod event rate is already in ticks, so just that's an easy transfer from ticks to ticks. Even I can do that one. 1 tick over 1 tick times the number of ticks. Alright, I think I've got it. You know what else I have? The reason the people in the Forge support don't want you to statically initialize things. If you do that, then by the time you initialize something, if you reference another thing that you are also initializing, like I do frequently, then that other thing might be null instead of just uninitialized. It might not exist. So I I do need to move things over because I ran into a problem here where the crystallization recipes that were being automatically generated were not were being filled with null values because I was generating them before the crystallization seed, or whatever this thing is, the crystal seed, before it existed. So it didn't work properly then, as one might expect. However, sorry, the retainer is bugging me. However, I do have it working now because I moved the declaration of this up above the other things, so it's kind of a win-lose there because that's obviously not a good fix. But we'll be moving things over in a little while eventually, probably off camera, because it does seem like something I ought to do now. Anyway, let's see it working though. I put a couple things in there, and if we right-click it with the bucket, because I still haven't fixed that, you can see the crystallization progress is going up, as well as a couple other things are being spammed. Need to figure that out too. Alright, so it finished, went back to 0, and if we right-click, or shift right-click, we can take out the crystal. And if we put that in, you can see it starts up again, and if we take it out prematurely, then it resets to 0 and doesn't start going again. Aha! So that works pretty much how I want it. I think I'd make the recipes last a little longer than that. But other than that, yeah, pretty happy with that. Pretty happy with it. I also want to make it so that it only works when there's water in the thing, and I want to make it so that it only works when it has energy and it takes energy. However, currently you can see in the spammed chat does not have tag AA energy, so I need to figure out why it's not doing that either. Actually, I don't think that one's hard to figure out. Over in talent here. Let's see. Yeah, right to NBT. Notice a distinct lack of AA energy. So I think if we did this, then like so. I don't know if it has this variable. Nope. But yeah, that'll fix the problem there. However, I think the other aspects that I was talking about just a minute ago, we'll have to wait until the next episode because I am currently out of time and the video is also out of length. So I will see you in the next one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching and take care. Bye bye.